everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Drake's Takes with me, your host, Drake Riggs. It is the 4th of July here at the moment of recording. Hope you all had a happy, safe holidays if you celebrate that, if you're even in America, which I'm sure many of you might not be, because on my show, we talk about a lot of things around the globe. And today, specifically, we're doing just that. Going out of America, it is a RIZIN spectacular of a show because we got to catch up on and recap the events that happened at RIZIN 28 and 29. A lot came out of both of those shows, and not too much else going on outside of UFC things, in my opinion. Enough sticking points for an episode. Maybe they can carry over, but at this time right now, we gotta have a whole lot of RIZIN discussion, you guys, because as I said, 2 events, 2 weeks. That's not usual for them. So big ones, obviously, with the Tokyo Dome and the tournament and all that good fun stuff. So today on the lineup, we have, RIZIN 28 and 29 Fallout going to be starting there. And then, what's next for Ayaka Hamasaki? She was at the event, and we know when she'll be back, but we don't really have any idea who that'll be against. We'll go into that a little bit. And then a little bit of, interesting comments from RIZIN featherweight Kyohei Hagiwara, who said that he's been getting some interest from U.S. promotions. He said that on Twitter, and then some other fighters chimed in. We'll talk about that a little bit. And then last but not least, Shitaro Ishiwatari has retired. One of the most exciting bantamweights from Japan. He has called it a career, and all this stuff kind of connects a little bit. But there's a lot of little talking points here, which is why this is going to be an all RIZIN show. I apologize if that's too much for you guys. We'll see you. You can come back next time and we'll be more diverse, but it's Drake's Takes. This is what you get. Always feel free to comment and let me know if there's some things that we should touch on. Always happy to get into them. But right now, let's get into RIZIN 28 and 29. We'll start off with 28, of course. The big Tokyo Dome show, the first MMA event inside the world famous Tokyo Dome since 2003, I want to say. The first event in 18 years, if the math checks out there. I think it was Pride Final Conflict 2003. I remember writing about this, but my memory isn't latching onto it. I'm not 100% sure, but I know it's around that time. So first MMA event there in quite a while, damn near 20 years. Came back with a pretty big show. Not as big, I think, as we wanted or kind of anticipated, because we found out about this on New Year's, and it was supposed to happen months earlier, but the coronavirus kept pushing it back, and we were teased like crazy with the possibility of Tenshin and Takeru finally getting that sensational fantasy matchup in kickboxing. Instead, Takeru nowhere to be seen, and Tenshin fights 3 different men in a single fight, not all at the same time, but that happened instead, which was pretty fun. I will not deny. And since he did end up fighting all 3 of them, he beat all of them. He won all the rounds. So let's just talk about that right now, since that's what I have mentioned. So yeah, Tenshin Nasukawa, the prodigy, the superstar, ended up facing Hiroya, who you will remember from his Shibatar match that he lost on New Year's Eve, going into 2021. He was the first man up to the plate. I believe on here it's showing that he was in second, so maybe he was the second round, but for some reason I remembered him as the first. But either way, then after that, Koki Osaki and Hideo Takoro was the mystery man. So the old dog himself stepped in there in the last round, and they all got the business from Tenshin. So kind of nuts, just considering that he's he didn't get tired, fighting 3 different guys. Well, they came in fresh only for a single round every time, and couldn't do much. I mean, they all put up good fights, I think, but just Tenshin is on another level ridiculous. So, that was just kind of for a fun thing. And there actually were no kicks in that. I forgot about that. So it was pretty much they were all boxing matches, boxing rounds, whatever you want to say, except they could do spinning back fists. And I think that was the only little special thing about it. So pretty much the same thing that Gomi and Koji did on New Year's as well. Same format of rules, if I'm remembering correctly. But so Tenshin beat 3 men in a single night. Only 1 round against each of them, but back to back to back. Pretty insane. Pretty ridiculous that happened. And I saw some people didn't think this was that fun and enjoyable, but I thought it was all right. I thought it was definitely, I mean, you never see this kind of thing. So that's exactly what you want out of RIZIN back in in the Tokyo Dome for the first time. So I thought it was cool. And, they didn't put this together until like 2 weeks before the event even started. So mad scramble. I mean, the whole Tokyo Dome event was such a bummer that this had to happen right now. Like if if the virus wasn't around and everything was normal, like this would have been that much bigger. It was already a big deal, and and it was planned to be despite everything. But man, imagine that thing all full and hypothetically getting a lot crazier than it already was. But anyway, aside from that, we had a very fun opening matchup though. Just to go down the card here, Satoshi Dominator Yamasu welcomed Bei Noah to MMA, who a striker coming in similar to Tenshin a little bit, not on the same level, of course, but that was a fun fight, and I thought he did pretty all right for MMA for the first time. A lot of theatrics there. Dominator had fun with it, was egging him on to come to the ground. Wouldn't do it willingly, of course. A lot of showmanship in that one. That was definitely a very fun fight. I would check that one out if you missed it. Shoma Shibasai got the upset over Tsuyoshi Sudario, who was the streaking prospect, even just 3-0. Yeah, just 3-0 going into this one. The sumo wrestler, that's what he's known for. Put up a competitive fight, but Shibasai, more experience, gets it done in the 3rd round, rear naked choke. And then the 3rd fight of the night was the featherweight champ back for the first time since winning that title against Mikuru Asakura. That is Yutaka Saito taking on Vugar Karamov in a non-title tilt, which we talked about that last time, didn't we? On the last episode of Drake's Takes. Weird thing, so I won't get too much into that. But split decision for Saito. So Karamov definitely put up a very good fight, and he got a red card on that one, if I'm remembering. Apologies for the cloudiness about this event, because I did watch it right after UFC 263, which I was at, and then I came back to where I was staying and caught up, and it was a little bit rough, a little bit tired, but still watched it. And there was a foul in there. There was a couple fouls I remember from Karamov, which ultimately led to some deductions and whatnot, but very close fight, which is exactly the worry we had going into this card. So not terrible for Karamov. I mean, performance wise, lost. Yeah, that sucks, but hey, you're taking on the champ, and arguably should have beat him even with the point fouls and whatnot. So that was the first bit of that unofficial mini featherweight tournament that we talked about, and champ retains. And oh man, that makes it very exciting going forward as we continue here, because right after that there was the bantamweight tournament kicking off the 60-man Grand Prix with Yuki Mitoya and Ryu Okada. Yuki gets it done there as I expected. Hiro Masa was right after, beating Takeshi Kasugai. Unanimous decision for both him and Mitoya. Just those guys just have the experience edge there, and they've been around, fought some of the best. Not surprising. Of course, there could have been the upsets, but those fights were supposed to go that way, I believe. And then it gets crazy. So I was going to say, should I save this for kind of the end here as we get to Ishiwatari? But after that, it was Naoki Inoue versus Shintaro Ishiwatari, who, I mean, it's a very sad way for Ishiwatari to go out, but that's just how insanely good Naoki Inoue has gotten, and just with each fight, it makes you scratch your head at why the UFC did not keep this guy. Because holy shit, Naoki Inoue is taking it to another level right now. Say it again. I'm gonna say it every time we talk about him. This guy arguably should be getting the title. He should have got the title shot against Kyoji instead of going into this tournament. But instead, he is strengthening the hell out of his case for it. For that title shot. And man, oh man, I really do hope we get to see that fight, whether he wins all this or not, which it's looking like he very well could, because ended up getting pretty nasty soccer kick knockout on Shintaro after knocking him down just under 2 minutes. Like, my goodness, 24 years old. This guy is insane. Getting better each time. He's a monster on the ground. What he submitted Matoya in, let me be specific there. I mean, yeah, that was his last fight, right, on New Year's. So that was shocking. I mean, just everything he's done since coming to RIZIN has been fantastic. And submitting Shuto, who fought right after him, that was very impressive too. And all first round. That the Yuki fight is his longest one in his last three, with 3 minutes. And to beat Shintaro, who, plenty of experience, been fighting since 2006. We'll get more into that later. But my goodness, to beat him in that fashion was pretty crazy. Naoki can do it all. And that was actually his first knockout, which is what a way to get your first knockout in the Tokyo Dome in that fashion against that guy. My goodness, he is terrifying. But then the former champ, Kai Asakura, against Shuto Watanabe after that. Man, Kai is still a beast, still one of the very best in the world as well. Both Naoki and Kai are top 15 across the board, in my opinion. Doesn't matter the organization. They're both top 15 level bantamweights. That's how good they are. That's how good this division is worldwide. But Kai against Shuto, this went exactly how it should have went if Shuto could not get Kai on his back. And Kai showed phenomenal takedown defense. Shuto didn't really want to play any part on the feet, which was smart. But he couldn't mix it up or make Kai think that he wasn't going to try and take him down. He just was too well aware of it. Stuffs the takedowns, gets some nasty knees on Shuto, and then just violent ground and pound, heavy, accurate, just nasty stuff. Kai Asakura is still a monster. If you had any doubt, which you shouldn't have, because Kyoji's a monster as well. These guys are also good. Okay, we're gonna be very positive today. But yeah, that was impressive to show that kind of takedown defense against a guy in Shuto who very good grappler, and that's his best area, obviously. So, but then it only gets more impressive, because right after that, Roberto Satoshi de Souza, in only 72 seconds, submits Tofik Musayev to become the first RIZIN lightweight champion. Correction for many of you who thought Tofik was champion, which he's the lineal champion. And in our hearts, in our minds, we knew Tofik was the actual champion, defending in this case, but it was just the tournament title that he won the last time we saw him. But came back, and my goodness, Satoshi wasted no time. The man is a killer of a killer. This fight, in terms of how excited I was for it, like I said on the last episode, that this was one of the absolute best matchups in MMA right now, didn't live up to that because it was so short, and it wasn't much of a fight, right? So Satoshi goes in there. I believe he pulled guard, and or no, he went for the takedown, and Tofik defended brilliantly, and then ends up in guard. And you just give this man a single opening, just a sliver of light out the crack in the wall, and he will slip on through it. That's what he did in this case with Tofik. Got the triangle. Once it's on, it's game over. And new. What a story this guy has become. Never gone to decision. He is just incredible at what he does. And he's I don't know what to say. It's like his jujitsu is horrifying, and he's getting better in other areas too, as we've seen in other fights. Like I said last time too, his last win was his first submission in RIZIN, but now he's got a second one and a shiny gold belt. And man, bummer for Tofik, who had all that time away with the year off and the military service and all that, and then to come back and lose like that. But he'll be back. He is still phenomenal as well. Some of you on this card, you had seriously some of the best fighters in RIZIN competing. Like, even though it wasn't as huge as it could be, this card really showed how deep that the kind of roster has gotten with the level of talent. Like Naoki, Kai, Saito's on here, Kagerimov even. Shibasai getting the win over Sudario. That's a good one too. Just some of these guys who aren't monstrous names yet. Kai's a very big name, but Naoki in particular, Satoshi, who's still getting bigger, Tofik as well. And then in the main event of the night, Mikuru Asakura, so the brother of Kai, very, very big star as well, very, very talented featherweight, gets Kleber Koike Erbst, and the former KSW champ. And the same thing, just everything that I just said about Satoshi, just take that and put it on Kleber as well, because these guys are virtually the same guy. I would say that Kleber is definitely a bit more patient with his approach. Satoshi just goes out there and just goes for the kill instantly in all of his fights. Kleber, though, takes his time a little bit more, but he still give him any slight opening. Once he gets it in, it's game over. And he put Mikuru Asakura to sleep, also by a triangle. So the Bonsai Boys, 2 for 2 on the night. Both triangles, both two of the best submission fighters in the world. Two of the best fighters in the world, period, in each of their divisions, lightweight and featherweight. I don't know if anyone can stop them, especially on the ground. Nobody in RIZIN is going to be able to stop them unless they bring in somebody who is similar in that regard, which I don't know who they're going to find. But it just, man, they're so good at what they do. And just the way they set up both of those, the way they get all of these submissions. Go back to RIZIN 26, watch their fights there, then watch these. How just buttery smooth with their setups and the way they sneak things, put it together. It's incredible. I would love to see like Satoshi versus Oliveira. My goodness, that would be insane. And yes, we're getting fantastical today, but that would be madness just in terms of the jiu-jitsu clinic that would be put on there. But yeah, I am fully confident that I think these guys, Kleber is going to, he's going to be champ. His next fight, he'll take on Saito. I think there's no doubt about that. He has to after that performance. And yeah, then we're gonna have 2 Brazilian champs in RIZIN. So crazy, absolutely crazy. Just their 2 fights and their performances in particular are nuts. But I don't know if anybody can stop those guys. So RIZIN 28 was very, very. It delivered. I would say it delivered. A little bit slow there with the first two bantamweight fights. I didn't think were incredible or anything. They were good performances, of course, from Matoya and Ugi Kubo, but they were the lower points of this card, which is crazy because those are 2 very well-known names and established veterans. So, and they're moving on. So good for them. Can't wait to see who they get next, all that stuff. But yeah, RIZIN 28 was fun. It was a very fun card. Some insanity. Just, I still can't get over the Bonsai Boys. They are phenomenal. And it continues at RIZIN 29 with Alan Yamaniha, who defeated Kazuma Kuramoto in a very fun fight. Really enjoyed that one. Split decision. Oh no, that was unanimous actually for Yamaniha, but it was very close. They both had some very strong moments. Yamaniha in the first round damn near finished Kuramoto. This was the first bantamweight opening round fight of RIZIN 29 as well. So technically, it was the fifth one of the first round, right? As they had 4 on each card. But yeah, very close. I slightly edged it to Kuramoto, and like just at the very end, some heavy ground and pound that he had in the very end, it just I could see it either way. It's not bad, but yeah, that fight was very close. And Kuramoto, as I said, was my dark horse, but can't win them all. So Yamaniha maybe takes that instead, and just that bonsai momentum, like I said. So yeah, that was that fight. Right after that one, Kenta Takizawa and Masakatsu Imanari. Boy, oh boy, classic Imanari fight, right? It's definitely a silly one. Some people hated this, some people loved it because you know what you get with Imanari. He's gonna look for his submissions, try and get that rolling knee bar heel hook, which he damn near got at one point. I think it was in the third round, maybe. It's very close. He got Kenta, but Kenta snuck his way out. And so most of this fight, I'll just summarize it as this. He was Kenta, and he knew it going in. Not going to play on the ground. I am not going to do that at all with this guy, and for good reason. So he pretty much tried to stay away from Imanari the whole fight, and just he flurried at like in the final 10 seconds to try and score some points, which ended up working because he won. But not the most activity, a lot of circling. There were some warnings for inactivity and whatnot, but very smart way to fight Imanari if you're Kenta. So it worked. It paid off. So it's just what you got to do. So, yeah, I mean, I was entertained by it. It definitely wasn't a great fight. No, not at all. But it was entertaining to watch. Just kind of the mind games a little bit there. So yeah, and Atsuka defeats Yamashita after that to advance, as does Hakamura defeating Ito. Yeah, similar kind of fights to Matoya and Hiromasa's on RIZIN 28. Those guys did their things. They got the job done. Not too much to say about them, honestly. So, but before these fights as well, Yusuke Yauchi got back in the win column, much needed, as he took out Yuki Kawana. Pretty fun fight. Yusuke looked good. I mean, all Yusuke's fights are quite enjoyable, but he looked he fought smarter, I think. Went in there, Yuki really tried to take him down a lot, but it was just not set up very well, and they went into the corner a whole bunch, and Yusuke down to his knees would get up, and that was on repeat a lot. That was a big thing I remember from Yuki's side of things, and a little bit of bad blood to start this one off. I remember there was some middle fingers being thrown up by Yauchi after no glove touch, so I kind of added a little something as it started. But yeah, Yauchi back in the win column, good for him. Before that, it's a featherweight action, and yeah, this was a very kickboxing heavy card. That was kind of the theme of it, which was kind of fun to do that with, both of these cards being how they were set up, very tournament based for both of them with the bantamweight action. But this one was very kickboxing heavy, and yeah, so they had the one night featherweight RIZIN Kick tournament, as they called it. So also, let's point this out about RIZIN 29. Very, very bizarre in terms of it was a foul heavy card. We got multiple nut shots. We got eye pokes, which rarely you will see in RIZIN. And everyone says that about the gloves whenever there's UFC issues, yada, yada. I do it myself. But yeah, this card had a lot of funny business, and it didn't stop there. I mean, in the which fight was it? Yoshinori and Shikai, the third fight of the night. Doctor stoppage from broken nose, which wasn't even the worst broken nose you'll ever see, but kind of the commission doctors over there will stop things a little bit unnecessarily, maybe, or you won't quite see that overseas, which is what it is. But Yoshinori was, definitely on his way to winning that one, and had a very good first round as well. That kid is crazy. He looks like he's 13, but he's in there kicking ass at I think he's 22 or 23. He's very young looking though, so he's always fun to watch. But yeah, so that doctor stoppage there, and then directly after that, funny enough, directly after that, Koji, who I mentioned earlier, taking on Genji Umino. This fight was 43 seconds long. They get in the pocket. Koji's just moving around, and accidental head clash as he's coming up, moving his head up, hits Genji right on the nose, hits him with a hook right afterwards as he's moving to get out of the way. I think it was a left, hits him square on the nose again. So it was like a double whammy of nose pain for Genji. And the fight gets stopped. No contest, accidental headbutt. The doctor stopped it again because of the broken nose. And I believe they even said he had a broken orbital on commentary as the night went on because they had to sort this out. So he actually got pretty jacked up from that, did Genji, but no contest in this one night tournament. So we're like, okay, what the hell is going on? So first of all, it's silly business with the stoppage, and then it's a no contest. So what does that mean? I was thinking like, well, you could just make the next fight for the title, then why not? Because they were doing the tournament finals and all that. Because that would make sense. No contest, nobody advances. But what they ended up doing was Koji advances to the finals because he took the least amount of damage between the two. Clearly, if there were those breaks in Genji's face, like I said. So Koji advances by default, which a little bittersweet to the whole thing. It was pretty frustrating, as a viewer to watch that way. I mean, not really. It was more frustrating for a different reason, which we'll get to. But after that, Taiju Shiratori defeats Ryu Takahashi. Phenomenal victory. He looked amazing in his first fight, his semifinal bouts to advance to the finals. Knocks out Takahashi in the first round, a minute 37. Just about how you would want a picture perfect one night tournament fight to go. And then in the finals, takes on Koji and gets the job done over the course of 3 rounds. But good old fun, the RIZIN Live Now stream, English stream, cut out for everybody. 10 seconds left in the first round after I believe it was another nut shot to Shiratori. So people did not get to see this live, myself included, because what appeared to be a 6-hour time limit for the live stream, but they fixed it, put it back up right after. And I think there were still some issues for some people after, but I got to see it. And Shiratori just styled on him. Koji, he's not the best, kickboxer in the world. He's very good. He is definitely up there, but we've seen it now multiple times with the fights he's had, specifically in RIZIN. If you've only seen his RIZIN career, he's very fun to watch. I really enjoyed that ridiculous Gomi fight that we got, the tension fight that he had, put up a great fight. The Shiratori one too, that we just got on this one. The main thing about him though is he is just so goddamn tough. Like, it's insane the amount of punishment that this guy can take, as seen in all of his RIZIN fights. Like, it's nuts. He's one of the toughest guys you'll see out there. But yeah, and he's a very popular guy as well for, like I said, his fighting style and I suppose that toughness. But yeah, so that was RIZIN 29 essentially. A very bizarre one, a very bizarre card, kind of rebounding off of 28 with all the big talking points you can kind of pull out of that one. But it was fun. It was fun as well. Not as fun. It was the record for I think. Well, I know in terms of MMA fights, there were none of the MMA fights had finishes. So this was a very decision heavy card for RIZIN, which is out of the ordinary. And I believe statistically, from what I'm remembering, Shingo telling me, he said something about 60% of RIZIN fights ended finishes, which is pretty nuts. But yeah, this card was very decision heavy, and I'm curious to know if it had the most decisions in RIZIN history. Definitely in recent memory, but yeah, 29 was okay. It was all right. All the funny business kind of hurt it. 28, excuse me, was definitely a better card, but just happy to get RIZIN in general. It was always enjoyable watches. It wasn't a bad card by any means, but you have such high standards, when they put on such good shows traditionally. But all right, so that leads us into kind of the things that came out of the event that weren't physical action, right? So I believe during intermission for RIZIN 29, yes, it was during intermission, which was, it doesn't have it here listed. When exactly that was, I don't remember either. Maybe before the co-main event, but either way. Now, during intermission, just a quick little 20, 25 or so minute one. Hagiwara comes in the ring with the champs, the new champ, Satoshi, and then the GOAT, Ayaka Hamasaki. He announces that RIZIN 30 will take place in Saitama on September 19th. And they might try and do, some little other kind of shows, during the rest of the summertime, depending on how Olympic stuff works out. It really is dependent on that. But yeah, RIZIN 30, though, will take place on this card. Satoshi will have his first title defense on that card as well. Opponent TBD, as well as the rest of the RIZIN Bantamweight quarterfinals, which will be very exciting. And I don't know, this might be the first time I'm seeing this announced, and I'm not sure how true it is, but I'm looking at Wikipedia, so this could be, I haven't seen this anywhere. Maybe I missed it, but you're seeing my live reaction to the quarterfinal matchups, which, let's not assume that these are real. I will have to ask around after this, figure this out, because I'm very perplexed now seeing this. But RIZIN 30, apparently, as of right now, as I said, those two title fights to be determined for both of the challengers. But the quarterfinal matchups, according to this, which will not say are confirmed, but Atsuka versus Hakamura, Kaya Sakura versus Yuki Matoya, Kenta versus Yamaniha, and Hiro Masa versus Naoki. Don't hate them. I don't hate those fights at all, but I'm going to reserve excitement and judgment until officially any other reason to believe so. I haven't seen anything about that. And I know that they weren't quite sure how they were going to do the quarterfinals yet, because they didn't have the bracket past that. They were kind of just going with the flow with it a little bit, which is all right, I guess. But yeah, I don't hate those matchups at all. We'll see if that is the case. But anyways, let's get back on track. Ayaka Hamasaki, the atomweight GOAT, as I mentioned, she is going to have her next title defense at this card as well. But why are we highlighting her specifically? Well, she's the GOAT. You always got to give some love to the GOATs out there. And she keeps on doing her thing at 39 years old. Just fresh off of another title defense against Kana Asakura in their very fun, very good rematch at RIZIN 27 in March. But that's the thing. That's the thing with Ayaka, is she has literally beaten everybody that she could fight, or defend the title against specifically. Kana twice now, Miyu in the fight before that. Sohei is gone. I mean, the options, Shimizu just lost to Kana in her last fight on New Year's. I mean, it's getting to slim pickings because everybody's kind of fighting each other already. So you have to look at what could possibly happen or change until then. And for me, at the moment, the best thing you could do, the best possible way to do this right now would be Hamasaki versus the winner of the Alicia Zappatella and Jessica Del Boni rematch. No. We're not giving Zappatella. We're not doing that fight next. She's got to give a rematch to Jessica Del Boni, who arguably should have beaten her in their Invicta title fight already. And she just won the tournament, the one-night tournament. She gets her rematch. You better not skip over her Invicta. So And Alicia wants she wants to defend against Hamasaki in Invicta, which I think less likely to happen. But she's in Ayaka's a former Invicta champ too, so it is possible. But either way, that's the thing is you gotta Ayaka versus the winner of that fight. But unfortunately, sounds like that fight, that rematch between those two in Invicta will take place around September time, same time as Hamasaki's supposed to fight. So then you're like, okay, well, that doesn't make sense to have. It's not going to work out. Timing's just not going to work out. So then who do you put her against in the meantime? Do you do an untitled fight and just pick somebody who doesn't quite deserve a title fight, which is very doable, but not as fun, as we always will get into that about non-title fight championship bouts or champion bouts. But then people have brought up the possibility of the Deep Jewels gals, which that card now, Deep Jewels 33, is on YouTube. Deep Jewels is Deep's YouTube channel. Definitely go check out that event, you guys, because some serious highlights. Specifically, you want to talk about these atom weights, which we're doing right now. Siwoo Park, who looked to be the favorite. I broke this down a little bit a couple episodes back. And Saori Oshima, they had their rematch. Very crazy, kind of wild as expected, but Oshima pulls it off, gets redemption, goes on to win the whole thing as she beats Hikaru Aono in the finals, who Aono looked very good in her opening round matchup as well. And the first round of that finals fight, the scrambles, the wrestling, if you like wrestling and grappling, oh my goodness, that first round was to die for. Second round, Oshima just kind of took over and, imposed her will from top, but she is now a double champ in Deep Jewels. So the microweight champ, which is, microweight division is kind of, it's an experiment to say the least, but she's got that belt and now she's the atomweight champ. So at 6-2, I believe what her record would be now, 5-2, 6-2. She's still very early on in her career, but Oshima, fantastic killer instinct. Her striking, I thought, looked a whole lot better at this event compared to past before that Tamimatsu fight, which still an incredible performance that she was able to do that to Tamimatsu. Oshima and Park, still Park despite losing. Those two are absolutely going places and going to be players at this top tier elite level of the atomweight division, and worldwide they're already both top 15, and Oshima clearly climbed that ladder a little bit higher at this event. And so now the question is, all right, do you bring one of them in? They'll be in RIZIN at some point. I am pretty confident that both of them, they'll have RIZIN fights at one point or another. Sorry, you got the itchy ear here. Clearly should be Oshima before Park because, everything I just laid out. And so the question is, all right, do you throw Oshima right in there against Hamasaki now? She just became the atomweight champion. Deep Jewels looked fantastic. I say no. Too soon. You don't want to do that. As fun of a fight as that would be, as fantastic of a fight as that would be, for your RIZIN debut, right after this, it's just too soon, I think. Not that she couldn't put up a great fight, but too soon. And then there's like, all right, will you give it to Park? Well, then that's just illogical. She just lost. Aono option that I've also seen. People have pretty much floated out everyone in the tournament, the Deep Jewels tournament, and they just don't really make sense. Oshima clearly makes the most sense, but then haven't even mentioned the fact that her and Ayaka are training partners. They're teammates at AACC. So that hurts a little bit, and not from Ayaka's side, as she is very openly said, specifically to myself, when speaking to her. You can go check that out. Shameless plug, Broaden Horizon, over on my YouTube channel, mymanews.com, all that good stuff. What was it? The last time I talked to her, that was episode 7, I believe. So if you want to go find that, check it out. My YouTube channel again, like I said, youtube.com/DrakeRiggs. She said that, she's willing to fight anybody. Doesn't really care. It's that kind of stuff is not a big deal for her. If the fans want to see it, she's down to do it. She loves kind of new opponents and that kind of thing. So from her side of things, she'll fight absolutely anybody. Doesn't matter who. So it would kind of be on Oshima's side if she wanted to take that, and probably a harder spot to be in anyways, because, that's kind of a mentor of yours, I imagine. somebody you're close with, the experience difference, that kind of thing. A big opportunity, but like, kind of where do you want to stand in your career at that point? But that all circles to, or unravels to, what we should do, what needs to be done, what's the only option out there, the only logical option at this current time for Ayaka that we can do, right? Like, wait for the Invictus stuff to play out. At RIZIN 30, you got to do Ayaka Hamasaki versus Rena Kubota. That's the fight. That's the only one we haven't seen, essentially, especially out of the main group of RIZIN atomweights. We haven't seen Rena in a while. She was talking about getting that title shot against Sohee Ham when Ham was the champion. She hasn't fought at atomweight in like her last 4 or 5 fights, right? So she's been up at like 112 pounds, not quite strawweight, but not quite not. But she said she was willing to cut back down to fight Ham if, given that title shot, because of course it's a title shot. And I also did ask her as well, shameless plug again, Braun RIZIN, episode 2, she was on that one. Go check it out. She said that she was more hesitant to fight Hamasaki because they're very close as well. I don't know how much of training partners they are. Like if they go to if she goes to AACC for some reason, I'm not sure if Rena, does like full camps there or anything. But either way, they're very close. And Rena said that she would only kind of do that in a special situation where either it was like a retirement fight, which could be for either of them at this stage. And Rena has kind of talked about that after her last fight, I remember, against Tamimatsu. Or a tournament where like they have to, it's in the bracket, a special occasion, or a title fight. Why a title fight retirement, Rena? If you're thinking about it, go out like this. Just do it. Just do it. So, of course, there's the weight thing, which is, she'd have to work on that. She hasn't fought in a while. And then just if she'd be okay to fight Hamasaki, because it's not on the GOAT, you guys. It's not on Ayaka. If she hasn't proved that already, then I don't know what else she's got to do. But that's the only fight. That's the only fight when you look at it. Unless you, I mean, there's other fights that Hamasaki could have, but not title fights, right? So, like, for example, another person I spoke to recently, Emi Fujino, who is the Pancrase strawweight champion right now, a queen of Pancrase. You could bring her in. That'd always be fun, but I don't think she can make atomweight. So if you want to do a fun fight with Hamasaki, and they're very close as well, but I think they're kind of both of that mindset where they would do it. After having spoken to both of them, I don't think that's a realistic option. But, it's throwing out those types of things, types of fights that you could see. Here's one that here's a wild card, which I think would be very cool in terms of eras taking each other on, and two legends, two bona fide legends. It's just kind of weird to think about it actually being possible, but how possible? I'm not gonna it probably won't happen, but hey, when you're so limited on options, anything is possible at this point. Hamasaki versus Satoko Shinashi. Satoko Shinashi, who was one of the absolute pioneers of this sport. The current record holder, tied for the record for most women's fights in MMA history at 44 fights. She's 38-4-2 in her career. 44 years old right now. Hasn't fought since 2019, but has not retired yet and still wants to compete. Says she would love to compete in RIZIN or something like that, or a big stage like that, having not quite got to throughout her entire career. Seeing Pride pass her by and all that. Why not bring her in? one of the true true atom. I mean, she's probably smaller than atom weight. A lot of her fights, were even below the atom weight limit. But hey, there's less weight to cut for you if you don't want to. Why not get crazy? Let's get a little bit historical. Throw her in there against Hamasaki, who everybody has the size advantage against Shinashi. She's like, what, 4'10", I believe, and just a very tiny woman, but very talented if you've watched her career. So could bring her back, dust her off a little bit, hasn't fought since 2019. If you want to find somebody with experience, and yes, she is coming off of a loss. I believe her last fight was that loss to Nisei, who Aono just defeated at Deep Jewels 33. But if you want some kind of story aspect right there, aside from the Reina one, because that's the fight. Okay, guys, don't get me wrong, that's the fight. But if you want to get wild, throw in a wild card. Get Shinashi in there, huh? Get the princess, the OG, one of the OGs of this sport, the record holder, like I said, for fights. Which I also did point out on Twitter that Roxanne Modafferi, she will tie that record when she faces Tatiana Suarez coming up here at UFC 266. She's at 43 right now. And Shinashi is also tied with I'm blanking on the other gal's name, but a lot of fights, a lot of experience. Let's get crazy. Let's have fun. But the Reina fight, that's the one to make. Just got to get Hamasaki a fight. So that'll be very interesting to see how that plays out. Who ends up getting the call, what ends up happening there, what they can bring in. Maybe a different Invicta fighter, depending, even though they'd have to come overseas, which difficult. Like we know, we saw Tofik and Karamov were able to make it happen, which is great, but still not quite out of the woods. Either way, tricky, a little bit tricky at atom weight in this climate right now to make these kind of things happen. So yeah, we'll see. We will see. But love me some Hamasaki. Y'all know that. Can't wait to see how it shakes out. All right. So aside from that, this is where we get kind of out of the RIZIN 28, 29 Fallout territory, even though I tried to separate those as best as I could. I believe it was after RIZIN 28. So that week between 28 and 29, featherweight hopeful Kyohei Hagiwara takes to Twitter and expresses how he's looking to fight, and he's very fun to watch. If you've seen him, he is definitely one of those guys who has superstar potential written all over him. Fantastic, fun striker. He took to Twitter and said that he's getting a lot of interest from U.S. promotions or international stuff. So it's like, okay, that's definitely a curious case. More power to you, man. If you can land something, it'd be very fun to see him anywhere, whether you look at Bellator or UFC, even though he is violent in that RIZIN ring. So it would be a bummer, especially as he's still pretty early on in his MA career. But hey, man, if that's what you want to do, go for it. So interesting to note that he's getting, according to him, getting interest. And also chiming in on that matter was Koji Takeda, who I believe, I don't have it up, but he also said that he was not receiving interest, but he was interested in doing that as well, which also another young up-and-coming guy, lightweight, who kind of funny of Koji to say that, come out that way, because he's next in line for Satoshi. Like that's I should have mentioned that earlier, just now, but he's getting the title fight against Satoshi. Like I think that makes the most sense, and there's no really other way around it. They just didn't announce it yet, so they'll work that out, and that'll be a RIZIN 30. So unless he wants to fight in the meantime, which is dangerous, risk that title shot. You got yourself a title shot, Koji. Why? Don't worry about it, man. You can figure things out afterward. But I don't know. Some people, they have their things that they want to do, where they want to go, and all that. I mean, Satoshi, for example, just did a little interview with Guilherme Cruz at MA Fighting. Shout out to them and him for spotlighting somebody like Satoshi, who very much deserves it. And he is a fantastic human and fighter as well. Have spoken to him as well. Shameless plug. I've spoken to all these guys. All right. They're all on Broad Horizon. I'm just going to lay that out there. If you want to get to know these athletes better, you guys go check out Broad Horizon, where we talk to all of them and get to know them better, pick their brains. Plenty of fantastic humans out there. But yeah, Satoshi, he told Guilherme that yeah, he doesn't really have any interest in going to the UFC at this time anyway. He's making plenty of money in RIZIN. He's the champion now. He's becoming a superstar over there. No need, and can't blame him for that. So it's what it is. But yeah, so as for Hagiwara, who I imagine it would be like Bellator, but that's the speculation part, right? Is who could be hitting him up, and how would he do? And it's hard to tell because he's still very young in his career, and the times we've seen him beaten is from grapplers. So I would like to see his grappling defense in particular improve a bit more before something like that was to happen, because we did see his last fight against Brandon Hiramoto, who was a kickboxer coming into MMA. Hagiwara utilized his offensive grappling brilliantly to get the win there. So he's working on that. That's no secret. But what about the rest? Got to see some overall improvements. But on the feet, guys, fireworks. So that is that. Just a little interesting note, and I think to point out, see if that goes anywhere. But all right, you guys, let's wrap it on up now. Last but not least, we mentioned him earlier, Shintaro Ishiwatari has called it a career. One of the funnest bantamweights, most fun bantamweights to watch to come out of Japan. 36 years old, 26, 9-4 record. Damn near 40 fights. He just one away, one off. Yeah, called it a career. Former Pancrase champ, mainstay in Shuto when he started out his career. He's been about all over the place in Japan for the most part. Never fought outside of Japan, and had quite a career. And he's calling it now, so kind of sucks. But injuries, I think, are probably. I have yet to see exactly why or what, more of his explanation. I know it was on the Rising Confessions, but his exact reason. I know he was having some injury stuff ahead of, or just recently. So he was all saying that he was all good going into this Naoki fight, or at least more healed than he had been in a long time. I think some neck problems, which is never good. But then goes out and loses. Maybe that, that's just a bit demoralizing. If he got fully healthy and then loses in that fashion, it's a bummer. And why take that kind of damage? So, good for him. Had a fantastic career. Like I said, was in a whole lot of fun fights. Took on some of the, best fighters you can think of. Even fought Korean Zombie back in the day, 2019. Didn't get the win there, but took him on. Michiru Omigawa before that. Kyle Uno, he's been in there with Horiguchi on 2 occasions. And if you remember when he joined RIZIN for the first time in that Bantamweight Grand Prix they did back then, the 2017 World GP, won his way all the way to the finals. That was the finals when Horiguchi, him and Horiguchi rematched. So, the guy's been good for a good while, and only lost back-to-back fights 2 occasions. The first being with that Korean Zombie fight, and then after that he lost to Taiki Shucha, and then recently Naoki and Hiromasa, which really there was no loser in that fight at RIZIN 20. His last fight before the Naoki fight, he did lose by split decision to Hiromasa, but that was a late fight of the year contender. Awesome fight on RIZIN 20, which you've heard me say many times is the best RIZIN event of all time. One of the best events of all time. It is right up there with UFC 199 for me. Don't know if it's quite better because 199 was truly a magical event. You cannot tell me otherwise that event was not the best ever, unless it's arguing for RIZIN 20, which was amazing as well. But those are my two GOAT cards. But I still give 199 the edge. But for RIZIN cards, RIZIN 20, sensational, and RIZIN 14, good shout to that one as well. So yeah, Ishiwatari goes out with his last win coming over Hamasaki with a north-south choke at RIZIN 17 in 2019. Not a terrible, victory whatsoever, and one to have as your last victory. He was a fun guy to watch, a very, a likable dude. A lot of people knew who he was, and just it was never, you were never like, oh, Ishiwatari's fighting. It was like, oh yeah, you knew you were in for something good, whether he was on the wrong end of it or not, which very rarely was the case, right? Like, yeah, 9 losses, but with how many times he fought, and they were all very separated. So he nothing to be ashamed of. And before he's too old, 36, like I said, and if things are really piling up, better to call it now than later, so that things don't get worse. But easier said than done. And hey, as you know, MMA retirements are just a suggestion. So maybe we'll see him back. Maybe he will come back, get that itch again, which a guy like that, possible, definitely possible. And even a guy not like that, maybe more possible. So I don't know. We'll see. But either way, wishing him all the best. I think it's good to highlight because he's been around the game since 2006. Did I say that? Also fought Jonathan Brookins, if you remember him from The Ultimate Fighter, which didn't quite work out for Brookins, but Atsuka, Rafael Silva, just to look through some of the names. Atsuka twice, actually. And yeah, Naoki the last time out. Ishiwatari, man, what can you say? If you haven't seen his fights, of course, I'm going to point to his rising career, specifically the run through the World GP, and then the Sasaki fight, definitely a good one to check out. But the Hiromasa fight is sensational, and you can look through plenty of the others before that. But that's Shintaro Ishiwatari for you, you guys. He done did it. So congratulations to him, and all the best going forward in his life. Yeah, can't stick around forever unless you're Shinashi or Vitor Belfort, kind of, or the list goes on. I don't know where I'm going with that. But anyway, we can wrap it up there. So hope you guys enjoyed a little bit of this RIZIN spectacular recap of sorts. Update, Drake's takes. Had to get one in before we're on the road again. UFC 264 coming up this week. Should be a doozy. And yeah. Follow, like, share, subscribe, all that stuff, you guys, at The Body Lock. On our handles, the YouTube channel right here where you're watching, at mine, at Drake Riggs _ right there. Yeah, and hit that notification bell, all that good stuff. And I hope you had happy holidays. Hope you enjoyed these the RIZIN shows. If you didn't, let me know. If you did, tell me what you liked the most. Leave your comments, thoughts on what we talked about today. What if you'd like to touch on anything specific next time, more than happy to try and do so. But until then, I think we can just leave it off there, and more great content coming to you guys as always here at The Body Lock. Thank you so much for tuning in. We're out.